All right, hello friends. Thank you for joining me again today. My name's Dan, and this is Daily Art Adventure number 892. Woo! Moving right up on that significant number 900. Then it's just 100 more till 1,000. When I started this 3 years ago, I thought, I bet you by the time I've done this 1,000 times, I'll have it down. Reality dashed onto watts of reality. I don't have it down quite at least at 900. I'm still making too many mistakes, but be that as it may, thank you for joining me today. And as you saw perhaps by the title there, I'm calling this Finishing Touches. I've been going back and forth with this painting, just not much. I've probably done 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 at the most of painting on it today, and almost said this year. But anyway, very little. I'm just dancing around my touches, though clearly my mentality. Hello, Nicholas Bravo. Oh, the music's kind of soft in the background. Thanks for asking. The important things, eh? Oh, and let's get rid of the static here. I can't hear it, but it's likely I just not turned up loud enough. Thank you. So two categories. In these finishing touches, and they are realism, if you will, similitude, accuracy, realistic stuff. Or as someone the other day reminded me, some teachers have called it the illustrative element, that is to say the realistic element versus the abstract, or as that person categorized it, the decorative. So I'm being quite intentional. I'll zoom in just a little bit for you guys here. I don't know where I'm going to paint, so I'm not going to zoom in very far. Hello, Scott Dean and Patsy McCann. Thank you very much. Good to have you both here. So here's sort of what I'm doing. For every realistic mark that I make, for instance, I have here at the moment, a dull light colored green on these brushes. So putting a little bit of green up here in this foliage, which is that? Is that realism or abstract? The answer is clearly real, because it's realistic to put a light highlight detail. Now I'm not looking at the picture to do that. I just know the sun's coming and hitting these leaves. Anyway, so for every one of those marks that I do, I'm trying to be, see, like here's a good example. Like green across the lower grille of this car. Like I would have thought that car was finished. Now I'm also doing, by the way, I'm also doing a lot of this, not wiping it off, do you understand, but modifying my strokes. Now this mark right here, I guess that's more realistic than abstract. Here's another one, the trunk of this tree. Let's make it green, which now all of a sudden I'm in the mood to do some purple. I don't know why. Very intuitive. I do have one objective phase element of this painting that I haven't really started yet, and it's quite minimal. Now I have a dull purple on my brush. For some reason, when I did that dull green, it put me in the mood to get some dull purple. So some of the tree trunk over here, a purple tree trunk is that. It's realism because it's suggesting light hitting the tree trunk, so it's realism in that regard. but it's abstract because one would not normally think of the light on the tree trunk being purple, pale purple. So that's kind of halfway between. Okay, the one element when I space out like that all the time. I've got to laugh at myself. Please understand, I'm trying to get a painting here done. Will you guys please leave me alone? What happens, I'm right in mid-sentence, and then I switch into my art brain, and I'm just thinking like an artist, and it puts me right in silence, put me in a moment of silence. Anyway, so I still have a dirty violet, dirty purple on my brushes, and I think what I'm doing right now would be, maybe realism. I'm just kind of knocking back some of this brighter. All right, the last element I was about to tell you that I'm going to do is, I believe, is some palette knife painting. And really the only reason for doing some palette knife stuff is abstraction. That is to say, a variety of texture. I've got a little bit of oh no, even that I've covered it up, so even that doesn't count. I had some palette knife stuff up here, but it's been covered up. So we'll see when I get to it in a minute. If I get to it, we'll see if in fact I use the palette knife purely to achieve an alternate texture. Right. I just saw a bit of kind of dark cranberry, raspberry, something up here. This is broken color now. This is purely abstract. There's no, it's now, I don't know if you can see, but it's kind of a, I guess plum, maybe color. I'm not particularly good at like decorator names for colors. I feel like it's outside of my bailiwick, if you will, but plum, kind of a dirty plum. Which reminds me, I have some of this dirty plum stuff over here. All right, here's a good tip. So I am employing this a lot right now, and in all final stages, I tend to. When I've mixed up any color, in this case, a dirty plum, I don't think it'd do you any good if I hold it in front of you. Oh, you're just seeing backlit. I can look around the painting for any place that has almost this exact, pardon the imprecise language, almost this exact color. And if there is some place, then I can put this color down on it. Boy, I just realized that's a topic I have not discussed, and I should. I've talked about broken color, pushed color, where there's some part of the painting that's a certain color and I want it exaggerated, crank up the saturation. I've talked about sparkle coming back and adding a lighter, but I haven't talked about, I don't even have a name for it, but it's nearly matching color. Almost, the word almost is very important. Almost matching color. So let me just do it a little bit while I talk about it. Again, I've got, at the moment, a dirty plum, and I think that the only place I can really see it is over here. There is something magical about putting a color on the canvas that's almost exactly the same as what's there, but not quite. This is another example of the principle I like to rag on a lot, talk about is less is more. Oh no, but more is more than less is more. Follow. Let's play that back slowly. More often, more is more. That's why we call it more. And our eyes, generally speaking, our eyes get a kick out of more. and subtlety. Our eye, as you probably know, is capable of seeing, I don't know how many millions of colors. I'm talking off the top of my head. I really don't know, but I know it's a really, I have heard in the past sometime, it's a really high number. The number of colors that our eye can see. And generally speaking, all things, by the way, that was real nice right there. I'm doing some 30 purple on these windows up here, and boy, they were dark brown. They were way too uniform. All things being equal, which many times all things are not equal, all things being equal, our eyes would rather see more color than less color, or yes color than not so yes color. All right. Yeah, I'm going to leave these brushes right where they are. And I have here a whole jar full of, just for what it's worth, a whole jar full of palette knives. Oh, including a stick sharpened at both ends. I don't know, I pulled one out the other day, by the way. My daddy, I don't usually call him daddy, but my dad gave me this brush when I was about 20 years old when I began an art major. It was in my stocking one Christmas, 1974. That's kind of special. 46 years old. Isn't that something? I still have it. Anyway, I also have a rubber mover arounder. What's it called? Shaper, clay shaper. So it's actually a clay tool. Anyway, so that's just at my disposal if I want to use different palette knives. All right, and it's funny, one thing I never do with my palette knives, what they were made for, I never use them to mix paint with. Funny. All right, I need to talk to you. Oh my goodness, all kinds of people saying hi, and I'm way behind. Scott, Dean, Melissa McKay. Hello, Melissa. Hope you like it. If you have any tips, give them to me now. Luciana, John Manning. Hello, John. Love you, man. Good to hear from you. Hello, Aslan. Good to hear from you again. And Elsie. And Glenn Roop. Oh my goodness, Glenn Roop. He was one of my friends when my dad gave me this in 1970. No, I'm kidding. Well, we had just moved away from there, hadn't we? Never mind, Glenn. He was Glenn, world champion pole vaulter. Well, maybe not worlds. We're using a wooden pole. I'm kidding. Glenn was using a fiberglass pole, I promise. Have you watched this kid that's he's got the world record? Fascinating. Started pole vaulting when he's about 5. I was thinking about you. Anyway. And let me see, over here on YouTube now, I got a whole nother batch of people. And Mark Toomey, hello. Good to hear from you, Mark. And Barbara, as always. Jane, all the regulars over here. Thank you guys talking to each other. The painting is 36 by 60, 3 by 5 feet. And Uncle, did I ever go into a building and take a picture out towards outside and paint? Yes. What I've done way more than that is stand on a porch and take the view out looking through the porch. I've done that quite often. All right. Y'all leave me alone now. Stop talking. Stop giving me emotional palpitations by greeting me from when I was a kid. What I'm doing right now is I'm going to try to, let's aim toward this palette knife stuff that I was talking about. Again, really the only purpose of using a palette knife is for the variety of texture. Because the way it is right now, essentially the whole painting is brush strokes. Now, well, brush strokes and scratching. I do a lot of scratching. So what I'm trying to do right now is match the color of this cloud right here. If you can call it, I guess you can call it a cloud. This. I don't mind it being a little bit lighter than what's there, but I don't think I want it quite that light. So bear with me while I'm just mixing color. You don't want to know the rest of me. Don't. I'm using a tiny bit of tiny bit of phthalo blue, and a little bit of yellow ochre, and of course, a whole bunch of titanium white. And I don't like either of those marks. Now, this is me color testing, right? So let me zoom in, and I just hope that I remember to zoom out again when I'm done. Hello, Dick Hilliard. Good to have you on board as well. Melissa, glad you like it so far. Let's move down a little bit so you guys can see. I'm just moving in so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so these little, one little dot there and those two is me trying to match color and failing. And that's good to show you, because some of you think that good artists never miss. That's ridiculous. All right, I'm going to, it's too much, but, whoops, sorry. That's why I don't usually put you underfoot, because that's what happens. Hello, Susan. Thanks for you're sweet. All right. So I'm going to remove that, quote unquote, put quotes around remove. I'm going to remove that, but it would be erroneous. It would be a wrong impulse, again, to do like an early journey painter, get mad at it, get embarrassed, get ashamed, get angry, blah, blah, and say, oh, sucker, that was a mistake. No, none of that, none of that. So I've got a finger in a rag, and I'm going to shape it, I'm going to move it around, but it would be a waste to waste it. So now there's a little bit of variety that wasn't there a minute ago. Right? So very rarely, now I actually did yesterday, dip a rag, or was it the day before? I don't remember. No, yesterday, that I actually did dip a rag in Gamsol and quote unquote erase. But that is way the exception, not all the rule. Okay, I think I've got a color that I'm happy with. So it's definitely lighter than what's there. And that's okay. The fact that it's light is okay. I had room to go lighter there. Shoot, I'm going to paint with my finger. I always feel compelled to say, usually don't paint with your finger. I don't have any cobalts or cadmiums on my palette, so I feel pretty safe. All right, I don't know if you can even, you probably can't or can barely see what I just did. Yeah, so I'm standing back and squinting now. All right, so all that, well, there's some busyness in there that wasn't there earlier. And most of it is palette knife, oh, and then finger painting. I'm doing a tiny bit of brush stuff. Now, let me back up so I don't forget when I move elsewhere on the painting, forget to move you guys. Now let's try not to waste time. So I've got this really light, pale off-white, warm white. Is there any place on my painting that I can use that? Almost always there is. But this now, what I'm doing right now, is a little hint of realism, isn't it? I'm just adding light. Now that stroke, that might be considered, that smear, that might be considered abstraction. I'm going to add a tiny bit of ultramarine to the color. because I'm going to aim for this color down here. Now, before I do, it just dawned on me. Wait. Before I... That's abstract. need I say. I was going to do it with black. I wasn't going to do it, and I thought, wait a minute. If we're going to go into this area again, let's build some inner... I don't believe I've ever done this before. That's interesting. That is this crazy trick of, and I don't even know what to call it, this habit I have. This is pure Dan Nelsonism. I can't even explain, other than that my eye likes it. I just think it looks cool when you put down a line and then you paint up to the line on both sides. I do that a lot. What I've never done before is paint up to the line with a palette knife. So now I've got a really, really sharp edge right there. Do you know what? Let me let you in on, again, what it should be clear to you, especially if anybody's watching hello, Susan and George Wallace and Melinda Dilday, bless you guys. And 6:20 a.m., Brenda. Bless your heart. Oh, my goodness. And Zoran, good to have you on board again. Hang on, I'm going to paint. I'm sorry, I'm writing the way you can't see what I'm doing. A little bit of, really, you'd have to call it realism. It's barely just a little bit of light paint off this off-white color, whatever color that is, here on this distant Grecian building down here at the end of the street. It's our Memorial Auditorium. For those of you who didn't catch, this is our main street in downtown Raleigh. It's only 6 blocks long. Behind me is the Capitol building, the Capitol of North Carolina. At the other end of the street is our Memorial Auditorium. How can I demonstrate this? Well, there was somewhere on this painting that my brush accidentally made a mark. Well, one is right there. That's not a good example. Literally accidentally made a mark. I don't know how it happened. My brush hit something. Hit the canvas when I wasn't looking. And it's amazing to me how much of that kind of thing. Now I'm doing some realism, a little bit of sparkle on that lamppost. It's amazing to me how much of that kind of thing a painting will endure. If you want to see extreme example of it, and I'm working, there's Christian Hook, a portrait painter who does all kinds of ridiculous abstract, and he's won all kinds of ridiculous awards, and I, like everybody else, I'm gaga over his paintings. All right, let's just do some more palette knife. So I've got this real, you'd have to call what I've got on my brushes, I guess. Well, I'm tired of that color anyway, so never mind. I was going to say you'd have to call it a warm gray, really. Very, very, like a number 1, maybe a number 2 on a 10-degree black scale. Barely, barely, barely gray. But I've already messed it up. Now I've added a little bit of phthalo to it. I'm going to add a little bit more phthalo to it. I'm aiming for something up here. And after showing off my collection of of palette knives, turns out I'm only using the same one so far. By the way, it does bring up a point. Why do I have so many palette knives? Let me say this again for you early journey painters. My goodness, you don't need a whole bunch of palette knives. Typically, one will do. While I'm on the subject, let me see. Oh, my favorite one, I don't have it here. Never mind. I have a favorite shape, and it's not even in this collection. It's upstairs and everywhere else. Anyway, you don't need a bunch of palette knives. I have these partly because I'd be out painting someday and discovered that I forgot a palette knife, so I'll buy one, you know, drop it in the art store and buy one. That kind of thing happens a lot. I'm going to have a bunch of these because I inherited art supplies from artists who have passed on. And I look forward to doing the same for young artists when I mean, I hope not in the next couple months, you know. But you never know, do you? You never know, do you? So be ready to go anytime. we got serious all of a sudden, didn't we? All right, now this, I like that. Again, just to add a little bit of energy. Let me zoom you in so you can see it. I may not leave you there, but that right there, just a little bit of energy. I'm going to add some more. I like the direction that's going, so I'm going to add some more phthalo blue. Phthalo blue is the greenish color blue. I only use 2 blues generally for the last 10 years, probably. Essentially, use ultramarine and phthalo. I don't need any cobalt blue because I can get all the blues I need out of those 2. Ooh, that's nice. Now, what made that stroke right there nice is the principle don't have a name for yet. It's the almost exactly the same color principle. But not quite. It's the slightly off, and of course I'm letting the, you know, what's underneath it, of course, I'm letting it show through. And just for the heck of it, let's go to another palette knife. Anyway, so to get that, you don't need a whole bunch of palette knives. My goodness. Like every other hobby in the world, most of us tend to be, what's the word? Gearheads. That's the music. That's one of the names for musicians who always have to have the latest, greatest gear, right? So no, don't wait. Don't say, oh no, now I got to get more palette knives. Hogwash. More the lesson is probably if you're a full-time or even a serious artist, just stuff builds up without even trying. So don't try, my goodness. Just get the stuff you really need. I am really tickled that I'm doing, so now I've done the sky all the way from here to there, from down here to up there so far, and I've lightened it slightly, which I was wondering about making it lighter, had been wondering that for some time, and I'm quite tickled with the effect. And I'm assuming, as you can see, even though I'm painting sky color, I'm paint like this those are completely abstract marks. You understand that, of course, right? Oh, by the way, here's another trick. Don't use this one very often, but I was earlier today. Here's a sharp blade, a curved blade. Well, that didn't have much impact. Oh, there we go. That was nice. Now, see, the curved blade is safe because if it was a regular X-Acto, it would have a sharp point, and you'd be in grave danger digging that point into the canvas. So the fact that it's curved is important. So, all right, those are nice. That's nice. Do I have to tell you that's nice? If I have to announce it, there's something mildly suspicious. If I have to announce it, the fact. Oh, this I call this a nice part right here. Well, this is nice. Please agree with me. Some fishy about that. Okay. In my humble opinion, and much to my surprise, I think that's kind of nice what I just did there. But wait. I'm cleaning some brushes over here. I spend half my life cleaning brushes, oh my goodness. And even then, I still don't do a very good job because I ruin my brushes. That is one bad thing about my painting technique. Oh my goodness. First of all, I always dirty two brushes where most people would just do one because I'm painting with two hands, right? And anyway. Nope, I want more yellow. I want more orange. I'm trying to mix up a fairly intense yellow-orange. Now again, I don't do this very often, but where I'm actually going in and reinforcing this, the crazy, and again, I just assume that, again, anybody in their early journey, in their first half of their art journey who's focused on realism is just, frankly, being irritated right now. Like, why are you doing that? Pretty hard to explain. There, that's nice though. I think I can get away with, actually, with another stroke. Ooh, my. Pardon me while I talk about stuff. Whatever that means. Okay, so I very much like that last little bit of orange. Of course, that's broken color, and that's pure abstraction. You could see that. I don't have to tell you that. But when you make a mark like that on top of everything, in my opinion, it feels to me like there's a certain phoniness about it. It doesn't have, because it looks like it was done last. Why? Because it was. Whereas if I just take now some pale blue color and paint, that last stroke was actually largely on top of that orange mark. But these others are just, I'm going right up to them. Now that orange mark is, if you will, enfolded into the painting. It's inside. And for one thing, it tells the viewer, like a viewer might say, well, I don't know why he did that orange mark in the sky, but it's sure clear that he did it on purpose. And first of all, then when they know that I did it on purpose, they're more likely to relax in their visual judgment in case and they might even say, well, I don't know why he did it, but clearly he did it on purpose. So, and then they can decide whether they like it or not. Same thing there. I put a bit of bright orange there, and I just painted up to it on both sides. Again, this is what I'm calling purely crazy Dan Nelsonism. And you can see it, of course, all over in most of my skies. And in the last year or two, I would say to a growing degree. I've had it present for a number of years, but it's become much more intentional and important in the last year and a half, say. Okay, you're also seeing a practice. I don't call it a principle because it's not based on, other than the principle of abstraction. It's a practice of, most of the time when I put a mark down with a brush, I consider it a normal practice is to then smudge it, rub it, scratch it, do something to it. Don't just, it's like a wasted opportunity if you just put a mark down and then don't do anything to it. It's a wasted opportunity for interestingness. The essence of good painting is making interesting marks. Okay, that should describe an awful lot of what I'm doing right this minute. Why is he doing that? Well, that's why. And of course, it's very intuitive. And how much is too much? Good grief. If I knew, I'd be the greatest painter in the world. Which clearly I'm not, so evidently. See that now I'm standing back saying, nah, it's a little bit too much energy. Energy is one of my favorite words when it comes to abstract stuff. It's just how much energy do I want up there? I'm quite happy with what has happened up here in the last 20, 25 minutes. And again, you understand when an artist says that, it's an expression of delight or surprise. It's not a boastful thing like, golly, I am really good, look at this. And all my fellow artists know that very well. And non-artists might think, man, he's being really arrogant. Hello, Richard Tardell. Good to have you on board. Oh boy, somebody new over here. Hello, Light Blue. Hello, Nemi M. Wait, he's responding to something Light Blue said. I never clean like Bob Ross. You know what? In fact, it's funny you should say that. Funny you should say that, and sad that you should say that. Do you remember, somebody asked about my color. I'll get to you in a minute. Paul Scatoro. It's all a mixture of all different kinds of colors. Tragically, Bob Ross died of cancer. And can't prove this, but his personal painting hygiene was terrible. You remember he used to take these big brushes, he would oil paint, he would wash them out in, and I don't think Gamsol was even invented back when Dear Bob was with us. So it was either odorless turpenoid or turpentine or turpenoid, God help it, I'm sure it wasn't, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, I'm sure it wasn't turpentine. But anyway, and he would slap it on the like that. So all those droplets, he was turning a mist of this stuff and breathing it. Oh my goodness. Don't do that. Do not do what Bob Ross did. All right. And what color, Paul Scooter? All different colors. I can't even, just every, here, let me, hang on. Here's, I do, by the way, are we looking right? Yeah, I do have purple here, then cool reds, cool warm orange, cool yellow, warm green. This is a rainbow. From here to here is a rainbow. The next color after this would be purple again. And then my browns from light to dark. So if you want to see what colors I literally put on my canvas, I have actually a couple different tours, I call them, tour of my palette on YouTube. So when you get tired of listening to me here, do a search, do Dan Nelson color palette. Now I have one or two that are limited color palette, and then anyway, a couple that are this. So if you really want to see what colors I use, that could be profitable, some of you. But of course, generally speaking, we paint by eye. We paint by eyeball. We don't paint by formula very often. You can learn a few tips about color mixing, in my opinion, but I wouldn't make a big study of it. I would just recommend just paint, just to have fun with it. All right, I'm okay. I'm sure you're glad. You're relieved to know I'm okay. No, I'm sorry. That was an art statement. All right, now I realize that this building right here can stand to go considerably lighter than it is. Nice problem to have, so to speak. Not a problem, but nice. It's always nice when something can go lighter, because going lighter is always a one-step process. You just make it lighter. Going darker is a little more difficult, because that means it's a two-step process. Because first of all, you're going to do a transparent, typically transparent glaze on top of whatever is it that needs darker, and then you need to follow through by lightening, making light marks around, next to, up to, and a little bit on top of the dark marks that you just put down when you're making it darker. So getting darker is, and the rule is always, it's a two-step process, getting any part of your painting darker, because you never finish with dark, you always finish with a light mark. Whereas, ooh, I have a strange little bit of abstraction I feel like I can do right there. Yeah. All right, that was nice. Let's use another tool, the trusty credit card trick, or in this case, gift card. Used up, I hope. Let me repeat something. One question you should have is, golly, how much, I thought the painting was almost done. How much longer could he go doing this? And the answer is, oh boy, there you go. Now you're getting into the reality that the reality is I could go a whole lot longer. I could go on and on and on. And I'm going to do something up here. You know, one thing affects another. So I lightened from here to here, I lightened all this sky. That immediately affected this building, which could get lighter, and this one. Now I'm finding that this whole building, this face of this building is too dark. I like it, but it can go lighter. So let's, I'm adding to this the white mix that I already have on my palette. By the way, I'm using a little bit of medium today, not much, just a tiny bit of Neil McGilp, the most unfortunately named medium in the art world, Neil McGilp. And I'm just adding enough to help my paint flow, just so it's not so thick, so it'll actually, so to speak, come off my brushes. Light blue, I should try. Oh, yes, indeed, suggesting I do a rainy cityscape. I would say I've done many of those. Many might be too strong a word, but indeed I've done many. Yeah, there's one now. Just funny. Just an hour, couple hours ago, I was cleaning up my, adding some paintings to my main website, dannelsonart.com. Added a couple portraits and a couple watercolors, and added one cityscape to dannelsonart.com. If you want to see what my finished paintings look like, you can go there. And I think there's still one called Friday Evening Mist, I think, or First Friday, that's it, First Friday Mist. I think it's still there. Now, the reason I'm not sure is because whenever I add paintings to my website, I take it as a signal to do some house cleaning and go through and throw out any paintings that just aren't. I try to be brutally honest with myself, and any paintings that just aren't quite up to, you know, the standard of the other paintings, I remove it. So I'm not totally positive. But anyway, I love rainy cityscapes, and that's a good idea, good observation. It's certainly not the majority. I don't want to give the wrong impression. Most of my cityscapes, of course, are sunny, even dramatic sunny. But I do enjoy a good gloomy painting. One of the paintings I took off my website today, I happen to remember, was this painting that I love, but I just decided, nah, it's getting a little old. It was a gloomy painting of a cemetery, one of the most gloomy cemetery I've ever been in. So anybody from North Carolina, he'll know what I'm talking about. It's in the cemetery, the old burying grounds in Beaufort, North Carolina, dating back to 1700s. And if anybody ever had to make a movie about a haunted cemetery, this would be the perfect, maybe they've already done that, and I don't know, this would be the perfect cemetery. Oh, it's beautiful. I love it, and, especially on it with dripping wet trees in a gloomy day or a gloomy evening. I love cemeteries, and I love painting cemeteries. It seems to me they don't sell. I'm not sure everybody, I'm not sure everybody shares my pleasure so I seem to have a hard time selling them. Okay, so I've just, of course, they're scratching. That's purely abstract, as you know. I've just made this area right in here lighter. And I've changed the color on my palette just a couple times, shifting it a little bit. Right now it's a little bit greener. Now, this would be a nice place, wouldn't it? Nice place for some little bit of palette knife. And I've misplaced one of my palette knives. So here it is, here it is. Couldn't have gotten too far, I just used it a few minutes ago. I've got one palette knife that's square on the end. Yeah, there we go. That's nice. Now, again, do you understand the only thing that's quote-unquote nice about this is that it's giving me, I don't want to do too many of those, of course, that would be redundant and bad, boring. It's hard to describe interesting marks. Again, the essence of good painting is making interesting marks. Check, got that? That's one of my most frequent mantras. Hard to describe what doth an interesting mark make. Not very hard to describe what is not an interesting mark. The antithesis of interestingness is redundancy. There, that's the worth the price of you tuning in today if you're an artist. Some of you, if you're in a place in your journey where that's useful to you. So again, that explains, so why are you using a palette knife? Variety, that's all, plain and simple. Just the palette knife, as you know, makes a different texture on the canvas, and that texture is good, very likely to be interesting. Now, if I do too much of it, then, of course, then that's interesting out the window because it becomes redundant if I do too much of it. Why am I scratching? Interesting texture, abstract texture. I've often wondered, you know, if I could have seen, like this painting, for instance, one of my own paintings, if I'd been able to time travel or something, or at least the painting, if I'd been able to see this painting 10, 12, 15 years ago, what would it have done? I don't know the answer to that. I would love to see a painting from 15 years from now forward. Good grief, I'll be 81 years old. I hope I'm still painting in 15 years. Marlene, do we have Marlene on board? She's one of our octogenarian friends here on the broadcast. I'm not looking at my photo reference very much at all in this little black pencil. Let's paint up to both sides of it, just real quickly. I like to think anyway, that if I were to see my paintings from the future, that I would benefit very strongly from the experience. But it just doesn't work that way, does it? Anybody figured out how to time travel yet? Please let me know. Ooh, here's a nice place. Nice place for a little, I don't know if it's realism or more real, abstract than realism, I think. Just a shaft of blue right there with a palette knife. Ooh, that's nice. All right, let's get away from this corner of the painting. Well, you guys weren't zoomed anyway, so it doesn't matter much. David says you can add some pink color on the shadow of the buildings. Yes, I've got pink right here, here and here, shadow of the buildings. Who knows where that means? Yes, pink would be good in a lot of places. Could be. And am I going to do a glaze? Elsie asked, am I going to do a glaze? I've done 2 so far. The last one was yesterday morning. It is possible that I would do another, I'm doing pencil right now, another glaze. That would certainly slow down the finishing of the painting, because right now I'm using fairly slow dry mediums. Now, not slow dry compared to what some people use, but it'll be a couple days before this is dry enough to admit another glaze. So that would be Thursday at the earliest I could do a glaze. I like glazing, man. I'm always glad, always tickled to do another glaze. I really am. I love it. But I don't know that I'll do that. I don't. One of the guidelines for whether to glaze again or not is my painting, is it tending toward too light or too dark? And right now the whole canvas, even though I've got wonderful light stuff happening, there's quite a bit of dark too. And I could just do glazes in areas, of course, but anyway, that's one of the guidelines. Is there a lot of dark? If a painting is tending toward light in value, then it's a little bit more likely that I'll use another glaze. And I would say this painting is not tending toward light. I'm happy with the highlights that are in it, but the midtones, I think all of this stuff, this is all medium. You know, it's only right here in the middle, really, that it's light here, and those 2 bits, of course, right there. So, not extremely likely that I'll do another glaze. But I've been surprised before. I could be surprised again. Let's put my palette knives back in the jar where they belong so I don't have to go looking for them. Let me stand back and I'm mixing up now a pale yellow, kind of pale yellow ochre. There was already a blush of bright yellow right there, and I'm just making it brighter. And then I think I might add some to this face of this building right here. Here's something I rarely do, push a brush uphill, up bristle, if you will. Worked okay. That stroke, I thought it would be too much, but that's right. I'm just gonna, there, that's kind of nice. That's kind of nice. Yeah. All right, I'm really in the mood to do something abstract, truly abstract to the painting. Hello, Alina. Good to have you watching, dear niece, grandniece, I think. I'm not sure, something like that. Is there a crosswalk sign to the left? There is over here. It's facing that way. So this lady would be looking at it. It's one of these 2 boxes. Really, by the way, David, I don't know if you noticed, the street light came back in, but it's moved over half an inch. That's a long story. I ended up wiping a bunch of paint off this wall yesterday because I wanted it lighter, and that exposed the lamp. And anyway, long story. There should be a street light over here pointing this way, but there's not, and I'm not going to worry about it. Not going to worry about that. Oh, here's a little bit of broken color. There's nothing light blue over there at all, so that's pretty gutsy color right there. It's so gutsy I don't like it very well. So I'm not wiping it off, I'm just moving it around, diminishing it somewhat. Thanks. Okay, now let me stand back. Anything, baby? Nancy's given me several critical tips. I ask her what she thinks, then she tells me, and I'm always sorry I asked. Not really. Not really. Now this, what I'm doing right here, surprised I didn't do it earlier. This could be construed as a bit of realism because it's blue reflection of the sky. In these, yeah, doggone it, why didn't I think of that earlier? Better late than never, I guess. It's quite nice. You can see, my practice generally is make a mark, then move it. Make a mark, then move a mark. Put it down, and then move it. Are people watching? Oh. Yep. Okay, so that none of that counts as abstract because that's clearly a touch of realism with that reflection in those windows. So it's nice. I'm glad I did it, but it doesn't add any to in the abstract column. Now let me. I said this yesterday, but let me repeat it again today. If, like right now, everything I'm doing in this painting could go under the category of fiddling, right? And that's often when paintings die, when you over fiddle, right? All right. So here's one. That's not the only. It's not proof, but here's one of the solutions to dying the slow death of fiddling. And it is make sure that some of your fiddling serves abstraction instead of realism. If all of your, like right now, this, even what I'm doing right here is, again, more reflection in windows, applied, albeit in a very abstract manner, but still goes. So this kind of fiddling can kill a painting. So you have to make sure that some of your fiddling serves abstraction rather than realism. Now, what I'm doing right here, again, that could be considered a little blue highlight on that railing. It could be realism, but it comes off, I think, a little more abstract than real. So very broken color-ish. Wow, that's bold. I'm not sure I'm going to keep it. Nah, I'm going to keep some of it. Too much energy way over here. But there, just mess it up a little bit, push it back a little bit, and it's okay. But up here in the sky, I succeeded in getting the sky very muddy and dirty, which is what I wanted. Boy, did I succeed. That's the muddiest bit of sky you'll ever want to see up there. So there, I just gave it a little bit of blue Lightened it up just a little bit. Again, realism, so it doesn't give me any points. It means I'm in the danger zone. I'm fiddling and doing mostly realism. That's dangerous. Does that make sense? There. That's abstraction. That's broken color. A blue mark right in the middle of that yellow gold wall. I like it so well, I'm going to duplicate it a little bit down here. By the way, I finally did what I should have done. I have here a big hand towel that's damp with a little bit of soap in it. Yesterday I had to make so many trips to the kitchen to wash my hands, you know, because I pick up this stuff, these solvents on my hands, and I don't like that. I am, what's the word? I am fussy to that degree. Anyway, I'm fussy enough to think about that. Let's do some more palette knife, which was ostensibly what I was going to do here, wasn't it? And I've kind of gotten away from it. So, okay, I've got a pale blue on my palette, on my brushes, no, on my palette knife. There. So that texture, that's nice. We do a little bit more of that. One of the nice things about doing that, the scratching that I do, if you put a stroke down and scratch it, is if you get too much of it, it's easily fixed. You know, you can just smudge it out. So it's safer than it looks, perhaps, we could say. I bet this is almost the right color up here. Not as close as I thought, but I'm going to keep it anyway. I think I like it. Anybody else talking? Need a fire hydrant. That's a great idea. We call them fire hydrants down here, David. That's a great idea. Too late. In fact, there is one. The image I went looking. Oh, there's two. They're yellow. One there and one there. Too bad I didn't do them. I needed you about a week ago. That car is going to get a ticket going the wrong way, Elsie. Oh, the color checker, that's a great tool. Did you get that from Mark Carter, or is it something like what he does? Michael McEwen, it's midnight, bless your heart. 100 hours where Jake is. I think, once again, I'm on the lookout for some excuses for abstraction. Boy, I just put some down. See this kind of purplish, I don't know, lavender. Yeah, sure, lavender, close enough. Too much of a good thing over here on this building, so I'm going to remove some of that. Okay. And y'all have seen this, you regulars. You've seen this trick plenty of times before. Now, unfortunately, I have to mix up a whole new batch of color. Do y'all ever, any of you painters, do you ever just, you have a messy palette, and at some point you just like mix up all the colors that are in your palette? I don't mean every single one, but like I just took about a 4-inch square area and just, it was yellow, green, purple, blue, you know, kind of all colors, and just mix them all together just to see what happens. That's kind of fun. That's what I just did. It turned out not too bad. So right now I'm trying to mix up this color, this sort of dirty ochre, I'll call it. I'm indeed using some yellow ochre. And then Adding dirt to it. Oh, good, close, good. So here's the trick. I just put down that crazy, are you zoomed in close enough? Put down crazy lavender on the side of that building, which is definitely broken color, by the way, right? And now I'm painting up to it, painting around it. I think probably the single biggest surprise that I've had in the last 15 years of painting, coming out of my classic first half of art journey, which is where I was painting realistically for pretty much all of my life, other than when I was doing cartoons, of course, that doesn't count. That's when I was painting lazy, drawing lazy. As I thought all artists did cartoons like me, when they were lazy. Turns out not everyone did. But anyway, the biggest single surprise, perhaps, has been the degree to which, I'll say, the human eye is okay with, in a representational painting, in a realistic painting, the degree to which the human mind is okay with meaningless marks. It just surprised the heck out of me continually. It still does to this day. Now, that doesn't work if somebody's really stuck. And I do think, now, I mean, some people are supposed to paint realism their whole life, tight, accurate realism. That's fine with me. You know, as I like to say, maybe that's why they were put on the planet, not my place to judge. But having been nice for a second, hang on, I'll put your seatbelt on. I think that there's a certain percentage of those people who paint realism who that is not what they're supposed to do. They just are literally stuck, almost like emotionally, almost like they need counseling. There's a rigidity in them. Now, would never say this to anybody. I'll say it to you guys though in general, because this might be you. There's a rigidity that is manifest in other areas of their life too, that is also manifest in their painting life. That their insistence is kind of related like to an OCD kind of thing. Their insistence on things being just so. And I think I feel that way because I think I'm close enough to that myself in my own personality that I can imagine having that that struggle. Now, for me, it's a story I've told it several times. I won't do it again here now, but I kind of got blasted out of that all at once. So I didn't go through a long period of struggle. It was like, oh, wow. It's kind of like being birthed. It's like, oh, thank God that's over. Well, where are we now? Now I happen to have a dark brownish red on my brushes. Well, dark brownish red makes me think it's a good color for the dark side of foliage. Dark red of any kind in foliage is almost always a good idea. Well, here's a good place right there on the back side of this traffic light, turn signal, whatever that is, like a pedestrian. Hello, Jennifer Parker and Ursula. Good to have you here again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're so sweet, Ursula. I appreciate that. Yes, Barbara, by the way, Michael, you're exactly right. Barbara is quite an accomplished painter. Go look at her stuff. Oh, Barbara, I saw your high school graduation. There must have been some on Facebook somewhere. There was somebody who says you're supposed to, for some reason, I don't remember why, you're supposed to post your high school graduation picture. You were lovely, my dear. Still are, but not in an 18-year-old kind of way, of course. Who would want that? We all know the secret to beauty, don't we? Be born 40 or 50 years later than you were. It's so simple. The formula is so simple. Hollywood shows us this formula. Every year they come up with a new batch of gorgeous, young actresses and actors, I suppose, too. It's real simple. I could be as beautiful as you if I was 22. And Barbara just proved that on her Facebook the other day. Anyway, sorry to digress on a silly subject, but Barbara's a very fine painter. A number of people who follow me, regulars, are fine painters. I'm honored to have them. Most of them, when they watch me, they're painting at the same time. I understand. That's what they tell me. I've stopped asking them, what are they doing watching me? And I've got a brownish, this is definitely broken color, the brownish purple. Yeah, mauve, pale mauve. So that's a good, very contrast to this blue that's up here. That's a nice, so this is abstract. What I'm doing right now is quite abstract. How long could this keep going? There's a nice, crazy abstract mark that I'm just going to leave right there. Doesn't mean anything. There's another one. Yeah, so I think one of the biggest surprises is how much this kind of stuff, now that right there, all of a sudden, that's not abstract, that's a little bit of realism. It looks like reflection on the side of that car, right? So what I'm doing now is putzing, to use the old Jewish word, I think, probably a Yiddish word, right? Somebody told me a long time ago that that was a naughty word in Yiddish, and I said, thank you very much for informing me of that. That's really, I need to be an expert at all things that are naughty. I was being facetious. I do not need to be an expert at all things naughty. So I never investigated any further. Therefore, I can continue to use the word putz because I don't know what it really means. It just means, you know, mess around. There you go. A little bit of linguistic something there. A linguistic rant. You don't get, well, I know you do get a lot of those. All right, I think I am in danger, definitely in danger of over-putzing. That would be a good regular expression, wouldn't it? Be careful, don't over-putz. And it would only be offensive to you Yiddish people who know what putzing means in the ancient Yiddish language. Oh boy. Don't over-putz. All right. By the way, the painting is signed. I signed it last night, so it was officially, you know, I could officially finish. This is just called finishing touches, and it's pretty typical for me to come back a day after a painting is done and putz. Hopefully not, you know, over putz. My eyes catching. First of all, I love what happened there. I like those purple. I like those two marks. That's the abstract mark. And I think that one, I think I can leave it sitting on top of the, actually sitting on top of the paint. Can't do that normally, but I feel like I can there. I don't know if you all can see the, whoops, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were still zoomed in. Sorry about that. I don't know if you can see the little bit of red peach cranberry color in there. That's all broken color. And was quite tickled with what that did to that plane. Speaking of red, sometimes I can see, in my mind's eye, I can see what a little bit of color here or there is going to do. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes I just sort of put it down by faith, or sort of put it down in a bold stroke of bravery or chutzpah, and then either regret it or think it was a good idea. Sometimes I feel like I can see, it's like, ooh, and maybe the color red actually does that more than anything else. Like I've got a little bit of red here in the underpainting and then one little highlight of red. And all of a sudden it makes me go, wait a minute, that would, and that is, by the way, where most of my colors come from, is they're accidents of the underpainting, incidental fragments, vestiges of the underpainting still peeking through, just tiny little bits. But I feel like it gives me permission to accentuate them more. And when I do that, those little bits that I'm doing, they don't feel like they're arbitrary, you know, hanging out to dry, so to speak, whatever that means. They're actually, they feel organic or integral to the painting, because there's some of the vestiges, little tiny bits of the earlier underpainting are still showing through. All of a sudden I'm on a little hot little streak here, doing broken color. I did that red. Now I'm a little bit of red makes me think, well, let's do a little bit of green, of course. Red always makes you feel like doing green. Just like yellow makes you feel like doing purple, and yellow and blue makes you feel like doing orange, right? Right? You get the story here. I got to tell you though, I'm quite happy with this little outing that I've had here. The putzing that I've done in the last, however many, hour, whatever it's been, 50 minutes, that was some nice, boy, that was some nice dull green right there. In fact, it was so nice. Let's do a little bit more of it up here. Again, it's hard to define whether, so these marks, when it's a broken color, is that a bit of abstraction? No, what I'm doing right now is definitely representational. You know, echoing the mulligans, the lines in the window up here. But again, with an alternate color, so it's kind of borderline. Yeah. Wow, I'm tickled, absolutely tickled with the red that I added there and there and there. Wow, that makes me look like a good painter right there. It's nice when that happens. Golly, we fooled them today, Maud. Here's a mark there. Am I still in? No, I'm sorry. I am off camera. This curve, the edge of this curve, is just entirely too dark. So I've got a dirty green color there. Much better, much better. Likewise, this box is too dark. That's a trick I'm learning. Broken color can often go in a part of your painting that's just very dark. You can introduce a That's a bold mark. I'm going to let it stay. That was good. All right. I think I'm going to call it quits. I'll look at it again over supper while I'm sitting across the room tonight, this evening. And if something calls to me, I'll fix it, but I say that and I'm over here mixing, still mixing paint with one hand. Doing a little bit of cheating right here because I'm adding dark and I'm not sure, breaking the rule, I'm not sure that I'm going to follow up with light. Maybe, we'll see. Just a very dull brown on my brushes. All right. I should stop while I'm still happy, shouldn't I? Don't over putz. All right. Thank you guys. I see anybody else is saying anything. Yes, you're exactly. Hello, Robin Thorne and Valerie Neiman. You're Ursula. We all have that problem. Over putzing. That's the third term of the day. Michael says, I think it's hard to get out of realism, especially with yourself being an illustrator. Yes, exactly correct. It is hard. Jane, wondering now that you are at the finishing stages, how successful you about your masking experience. Thanks for asking. I'll answer that in a question. Yeah, I'm definitely going to try it again. I'm very excited about doing it again. I'm mildly disappointed that once again, not enough of it is showing through. I've got a big area up here, of course, you can see. That was masked off. This area right here, those two are areas I remember. It dawns on me what much of my abstract underpainting ends up showing through, but you can't really identify it unless I were to go back in the video, like and take a picture, a screenshot or something of my abstract painting, and then I could find it. Now, way over here in the edges, you could see it. And certainly on this wall, there's a whole bunch here that I can see, and that was masked off. Anyway, Jane, I am thrilled with that experiment, and I'm going to try it again. I am not thrilled with how much of it I failed, once again, to retain in the finished painting. I mean, it's acceptable. I think it's a nice painting, but it doesn't quite meet my elusive goal. I still want more of that to be showing through. And I don't know if you heard me mention the other day that I'm doing this. This is a commissioned piece. And the man, Melissa was watching us earlier. Don't know if she still is or not, but Melissa's husband, Scott. So I'm doing it for Melissa too, because it's going in her house. But it's mostly for Scott's office. He saw some of my work from last year that definitely had more. So he was encouraging me. I wouldn't be quite this brave, I don't think, if it were somebody else I was doing a commission for. But I felt pretty confident in his case. So it's still to dream the impossible dream out in front of me a little bit of integrating more of it, but I'm definitely going to try it again and mask more. So the question, I feel like the acrylic stage where I did that masking was very successful. The question is, how do I retain that in the oil stage? I started off just saying, well, I'll just go light, which is what I always do. I'm not happy with how light I went because it got too heavy and I don't see enough. That's part of the reason why I've added, so much abstraction here in the final layer even. And I'm happy with what happened today in that regard. So thanks for asking. We'll continue the adventure. You guys continue your adventures. Hope you're doing all well. Hope you have a great evening or nighttime, wherever you are, if you're in the middle of the night. And Sid the Myth. Very nostalgic. That's a good word for it, I suppose. You're welcome, Brenda. Good night to everybody. Paint the Old America. Is that a building, Sid the Myth? The Old America. Oh, like just Old America, kind of Thomas Kincaid did, eh? Yeah, I've done some of that. Might do more. Anyway, have a good evening. It's 7:30 here. But time for supper. We eat supper late. We eat everything late. We eat breakfast at noon, lunch 11, lunch at 3 or 4, and supper at 7:30 or 8. And everybody, the whole family, the whole house full. We're all on the same schedule. Is that crazy? Anyway, love you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.